Hello everyone, welcome to the God Stack. Well, finally, after some years, I've decided to do these lives, and I will have the company of one of my colleagues, Bruno. He's a friend of mine, and he will be here with me. We will be developing software together. I don't know if Bruno, do you want to present yourself? Welcome, and yeah. Yeah. Well, so we need to talk about the today's content. So, what is it about? And one of the questions that most of the people do to me, why do I call it the God Stack? And most of the people I know, they think that the God Stack, it's about the stack itself that I'm using. It's because I'm using GraphQL, or it's because I'm using JavaScript or something like that. It is not. The God Stack, it's about someone, and this someone, it's you in the other side. Uh, the God Stack, the idea of the God Stack started uh, with the full stack concept. That's a very difficult one. It's very difficult to get a real full stack because you need to understand everything from the backend and you need to understand everything from the front end. It's a lot of things to understand. And nowadays we have the QAs, we have mobile, and we have infrastructure with DevOps teams and all of that. So when someone finishes the college and wants to develop a software, they have a lot of problems with that. And I've been developing software for around 15 years, and in all these years, I've tried to create an environment, an infrastructure, a software development, and a concept that will help people to develop software for small companies that doesn't have money enough, and it's able to escalate in a way that you will be able to use the software on Amazon or wherever. And again, it's not about the language, or it's not about it's always about the engineering and the person that's developing. So what I will try to do in these lives that we're going to do, it's talk about software development. It's not that I don't care about the code. I kind of care about the code, but the most important part, it's you in the other side. It's you to understand some concepts about software development, some problems that I have in these 15 years of software development, and I will try to show you the problems I've encountered and that was in front of me and what I did to solve the problems. All right. Of course, we need to start from some place. So if you're going to develop a software for anyone around the world, I'm based in Lisbon right now, uh, but and I worked for companies in Europe, Brazil, and different type of companies. All of them has the same problem. They need to develop software fast, that's scalable, that it's easy for people to understand, and the focus I'm giving here, it's for the developer, not for the code. So we will understand the concept doing what we are doing. One of the reasons I've choose GraphQL, it's because it's a new concept that looks at the data and see it in a different way. It's not the same way that we have in the past. You can play with the data and you can get what you want, and you can just change the way you see the data. So this is the reason I choose GraphQL to do that. All right. So Bruno is here with me because I want somebody that has some kind of contact with software development. He's mid developer, but someone that doesn't have familiarity with GraphQL. So it will be his kind of first steps in the GraphQL world, but in the software development he has already some kind of experience. But this structure I've created to juniors and internees. So these kind of people can create good software. And I've created this kind of software as well to startups or to people that want to create a very big software that can scalable fast and all of that. So let's do this hand by hand, line by line, code by code. Bruno will be here with me. If he has any kind of doubt, you can do that. Guys, if you have any doubt, again, you can use the chat to talk to me. You can go to the Discord of this channel. You can be there with us at the live. It's there, and you can have questions. Just please send a message, and we will open the mic for you to talk to us. And well, you can put your questions about this with us. Nice. Well, software development, you need to start from some place. So I've just created a folder. That's the TGS that we have there. It's the God stack, and everything that we need should be created here. I'm going to use the VS Code. I know we have NVim and we have other different IDEs if you want to use it. But most of them are paid IDEs, and I don't want to use that because some people that it's in the other side of the screen, maybe they want to develop this software with us, and I don't want the payment barrier with us. And NVim, it's a real good one, but terminal based, and it's really difficult. And the phrase that we always like to say, it's if it's difficult, it's wrong. So I'm going to say that a lot of times here. If you create a software, of course, you're going to use the terminal. Let's create another folder here, and let's call this the API. And then we need to understand why did we separate API and the SPA? Why do we separate the backend and the frontend? Because in the past it was not like that. When I started software development in 2005, around that, we have the MVCs all around. I've started with PHP, and it was just like backend and frontend the same place. So when we were using Cake PHP or any other MVC, or when we were using Django in PythonOS is MVC, you have the backend and the frontend together. The backend process the frontend and give to the frontend all the HTML ready to go. So there is anything you can change here, the HTML is all done. At some point, this starts to get very confusing. It's a lot of things in the same repository, everything just in the same place. So you have the model, you have the controller receiving the requests, you have the model to the model data, and you have the view to the front end part. It's all together in the same place. And people just start to think, well, we need to separate the backend to give focus to the backend. We need to separate the front end to give you focus to the front end. And then they start to think about the API and SPA, and they started to work with that. This was around 2010 that this started to get really hot. And then the frameworks from the front end start to appear: Angular, React, and the most new of them, Vue.js, and some others that it's always popping up. But I'm going to start with the API. If we are in the JavaScript world, you just do the yarn init, and some questions will just pop up. I'm not going to fill any of these. I'm just going to use the simple one. All right. I'm just going to do some modifications here. So I'm going to use modules. This is one of the new things in the Node.js world, that you can just create a software not using anymore the const require. So you're not going to require a file. You can just get the module of this file and use it in, well, the way you want to do that. It's not module, it's type module. Type module. Nice. With that, I can use import and export in the backend, right? Okay, let's just create a file. It's not going to be here, it's inside the API. New file and index.js, right? And this is just a simple JS. So if I just do the console log hello world, that's most doable thing that everybody just, and then you just run the node index.js. It's going to put that for you. That's not exactly what we want to do. We are going to work with GraphQL. In order to do that, we need to use some dependencies, and the biggest one that I like to use, it's the Apollo. So Apollo, it's the library that gives me the opportunity to work with GraphQL. You have others, but this is the one I like to use most. GraphQL, it's the concept. GraphQL, it's not a tool. GraphQL, it's not a software development language or anything like that. GraphQL is just the concept. So how you're gonna handle the data. The framework that does that for you, one of them, you don't have. You don't need to use Apollo. There's a lot of ones. One of them, it's Apollo. So if you want to install it, yarn add. I'm going to use yarn. A lot of people asking me what's the difference between yarn and npm. Nowadays they are almost similar. I just have the feeling that yarn is faster. So I'm just going to use yarn Apollo server. Yeah, and voila, you just have Apollo server installed. Of course, you're gonna have the most famous Node modules folders, and well, I just installed a library, and this library has like a lot of libraries. But guys, this is not just about the JavaScript. We have here Bruno, he's a Ruby developer. You have the same thing with the James. You have the same thing with PHP when you have the vendor. You have the same thing with Python, the dependencies that install another. This is the software development where we get nowadays. You install a library, you get a library, and you come with a lot of different libraries that come with other different libraries. There is a very famous authors that talk about this. You just want to change the banana, and then you need the banana, the tree of the banana, all the field that has all the bananas. Just to change the banana, you need to get everything. This is not just for the JavaScript. This is for all the languages. This is evolution. We are not developing software in WebAssembly. I'm sorry, in Assemble anymore. We are developing software, so we get where we are. We get everything that's from the past for us. It's part of the deal. If you want to work with Apollo, it's gonna be really simple. The only thing that you need to do, I'm going to use import. So import Apollo server. You can give any name you want to, and then I'm going to get it from Apollo, right? Really simple. So one of the things that you can do with JavaScript, I don't believe that's going to be possible in other languages. You can put a function or a class inside a variable. So I'm going to call this variable the server, and then I'm going to create the new. I'm going to get the Apollo server. That's the thing I've imported there, and then I'm going to use the Apollo server to do that for me, right? Well, it's really simple until now. And then as this is a variable for JavaScript, you can do anything you want with a variable. I have a class inside of that, and I want to put some other thing inside an object. This I can do that. So I'm just going to create an init, and it's going to be a function. So now I have the Apollo server, that it's a class, and a arrow function into the server variable. And I'm going to do that because I need to do the server listen, right? This is gonna listen for the application, so the application will be live, and then I'm going to do that and get the port. If we don't have the port, we're going to use the port 3000. And this is a trick. Most of the people use localhost here. Localhost. Yeah. So you just listen into the localhost. Don't do that. If you are working with Apollo, use the 00000. Why do you do that? Localhost 127.0.0.1 seems to be all the same places, and it kind of points to the same places. But when you are working with the network inside a container, for example, the 000 will call itself. And when you use localhost, it's called Docker instead of called the container. This is the reason we use 000 instead of localhost. Yes, we're going to do all the things with Docker as well. Everything will be explained, right? So now I have the then function, all right? And inside of this, if the server is listening, let's just console log something that's saying I am listening. Just so I can have some message here. This is a mistake, yeah. So I'm listening. So if the server is working, he's gonna say I'm listening. Of course, if I do that, it's not gonna work, and it's gonna say, hey, something is wrong here. So what did I do wrong? Well, when you when you try to create an Apollo server class, you need to pass, well, this error actually, it's not this one, but it's gonna be the next one. You need to install this module, that it's the GraphQL, I just forget that, here and add GraphQL, there it is, but it's not going to work anyway. Again, yeah. Apollo server requires options. So what he's saying here, hey, it's not just start a Apollo server. You need to pass some options to this class, right? And of course, if you are working with JavaScript, most of the time it's gonna be an object, right? The first thing we do is to pass a schema. What's a schema? Well, I'm not going to focus on it right now, okay? I'm just going to pass this like this. So it's gonna be a schema, right? And you have a lot of different other options here. So as you can see, you can pass a lot of different things here. We are going to work with them with time. Don't be afraid of that. But we have one that's very special, and I want to talk about it. That's the context, right? The context, you can just pass a function for this context. And this is one of the things I really like about it. Every time you start a backend server, you need a context for that, for every request you do to the backend. What is that? Well, I've called the backend, and I need to say, who am I? Who are you calling the backend? And then you're gonna say, hey, I am Breno, for example. And then you say, okay, you're Breno. So he's gonna write it down and say, okay, Breno is trying to access my server, and gives me a badge and say, hello, this is your badge. Just put your badge on your chest, and you can go inside the backend and do whatever you want to do. This badge, it's the context. So everything you return here will be available for everything inside your container, and this is really awesome. Right now, the only thing I'm going to do that I'm going to return an object. Inside of that, it will have an user. All right. This user will have an ID, and ID is gonna be new, just like that. The only thing in the context will be an user with a new ID. All right, nice. So we need now to figure out what the schema is, and this is a very important part of the Apollo server. But in order to work with that, we need to create this schema, and this schema is just not just created. You need to get a library to do that for you, and it's the Graphql Tools. So let's gonna add it, Graphql Tools. Okay, this library, it's gonna give you a function to process all your GraphQL and give it all this processing. It's gonna give it to the Apollo server, right? I'll just drink a little bit of water. Bruno, you're really quiet. Do you have any doubts around the things we are talking about? Yeah. Okay. So we have now the Apollo server, the GraphQL, and GraphQL Tools. So it's the tools to handle the GraphQL and pass everything to the Apollo server. That will be the server of this GraphQL. Nice. So let's just going to import it. Import the GraphQL Tools from GraphQL Tools, and I will do let's create here schema. Schema. It's gonna be equals the GraphQL Tools, make executable schema, this one. So I'm going to create an executable schema, and I need to pass to this function two other things. The first one, it's the definition of my schema, and the second one, it's the resolvers. I don't have it yet. I need to do that. So let's do that. Type defs. So I need to get the type defs. It's gonna be a string. This is very. This seems to be very awkward, but it's just a string. When you are writing your GraphQL schema, so the data modeling, it's just a string. It's gonna be that easy. This is one of the things I like most about that. And then we need to create the resolvers as well. The resolvers, it's gonna be an object, and inside this object I'm gonna have all the functions that's is gonna be responsible for our types. Again, so let's work with, first of all, let's define our data, right? So I'm going to create a book, right? So here it is. If you are working with GraphQL, it's that easy. You just say type book, and now I'm going to define what a book is. So a book has an ID with an ID type, has a name, title, it's better than name, title with a string, right? String, and let's call it year. Year, it's gonna be an int, right? One of the things that it's really important, it's this ID. For the GraphQL, it's gonna be the difference between you have a good GraphQL or a bad one. The ID type, it's gonna be using all the caching in the system. So everything you do inside the system, it's gonna use this ID to change the caches for you. So you will not be, you don't need to be aware of that. For example, if you change a book in the backend, the front end will understand that the book was changed because of this ID. This ID needs to be really unique. You will see in the next lives that we are going to work with the backend, with the database and all of that. We're going to use the UUID, right? Nice. So it's just that easy. You just tell to the GraphQL using a string what's your data modeling. So it's type book, and there it is. Now I'm going to create another type here. This type is going to be called query, and then inside the type that I have, that's the type query, I can create my queries. What's a query for the GraphQL? When we're working with GraphQL, what we're talking about when we're saying query? Well, GraphQL, it's the opportunity you have to get information from the backend, just like you do using REST. You can do that in any way you want. But if you are going to just get data from the backend, you're going to use queries. If you are going to update any data, to change any data, to create any data, if anyhow the information you're going to send to the backend, it's going to change anything in the backend, so you're going to use a mutation. Yes, so this is the difference between the query and the mutation. I'm just going to focus on the query right now. So how do I do the query? How is it possible to create a query and work with that inside the GraphQL? The GraphQL word. Well, you just need to type the name of the query here. So I'm going to call it books. All right, and here it's another very important concept in the GraphQL, that it's the parentheses and the column here. There is two different words for the GraphQL. The moment you are asking for something in the backend, and the moment you are receiving something from the backend. Okay, so if you are talking about, so I'm creating a query and I want to express myself to the backend, the things that the backend is going to receive, I do that inside of this guy, right? So what I'm going to say, for example, I want to fetch the information by ID, and I say that ID, it's an ID, just that. And now I want to say, okay, so if anyone wants to fetch for information, he can, this person can asks me an ID, and what this person is going to receive back. So let's say this person is going to receive a book. Where does this came from? I've just defined it here. So I have a type now. This is just like a string, an integer, boolean or float or anything that you can create. You just create a new type, and this new type, it's a book type, and you can use that now inside your application. But I don't want to give back just one book. I want to give back to the application that requested that an array of books. So what do? I just say, so it's not gonna be just one book. It can be an array of books. Okay, but it's still not good. If I wanted to ask, for example, that's mandatory to receive a book. How do we do that with GraphQL? You just do that. So now it's mandatory to give back to anyone that answered for books at least one book. It can be empty. So if the array, if you just want to say that array can be empty, you do that. Of course, when you fetch for books, if you don't have books in your backend, you are just going to say it's not mandatory. You can just give back a new array for that. Okay, and if you just want to say, hey, if you're going to ask me anything, you can pass the ID, but now it's mandatory. So if you're going to use the books query, it's mandatory to ask for IDs. You just do that, and then now the ID it's gonna be mandatory. So let's test this. Well, in order to test this, I need a function, and this function will be responsible to handle all this information that I've created in the data modeling, right? So let's do that here. If I have an object, the resolver is just an object. These objects needs to be exactly equal the data modeling I have here. So if I have a type query, so I need to have a query here. Okay, and then inside of that another object. What's gonna be inside of these? It's gonna be inside of these. It's gonna be, of course, the books. As I did here, I have the type query, and then an object, and then I have a book. And then I just need to do the function that will be responsible to give back to the user all the books that I have. Right now, I don't have books, so let's just create some. So const books, and it's gonna be, of course, an object, and sorry, it's not gonna be, it's gonna be an array, of course. It's gonna be an array, and inside of this array, the first book. So the book needs an ID, right? And then let's create ID is gonna be book 1. Nice. And then it's had a title. Title is gonna be book title. And we're gonna have the year, if the year is an integer. So let's say it's 2020, no, bad year. Yeah, 2029, good year. 2021 is good year as well, so let's use this one. Book 2, book title 2, let's do the book title 1, and then 2021. All right, so this is what I want to give it back. So it's a arrow function, so I can just do that. So every time you query for a book, this is the function that's going to run. This function receives no parameters. Right now, we are going to talk about this ID and all the things, how we do that. And it's just going to return the books. It's books. Yeah. Exactly. It needs to be exactly the same name. Yes, I'm missing the S here. It needs to be exactly the same name. So if I if I did, well, query, it's going to be, of course, query. But if I do books here, it's going to be books here. If I do, I don't know, authors here, we will work with authors later. But if you do books here, it's going to be exactly the same name. So this needs to be consistent in order to work. And this is resolvers. So I have resolvers, I have the type defs and the books. Does this work? I don't know. Every time there's a different error. What? Again. Let me just see. The answer is no. It should say I'm listening. Let me see. I believe that beep. Yeah. I was just thinking if you were paying attention to that, and if there is anybody on the other side that's paying attention, yeah, exactly. This is exactly the problem. There it is. Congratulations, you're paying attention. That's really good. Some points for you. Yeah, and I'm listening. So I'm listening. And what now? What do we do? What do you think that we should do? Bruno, what do you think that we should do? Well, if we are creating a backend with the local host in the port 3000, let's try that. Let's see what happens. So let's do the localhost 3000 and see what happens. There we go. Exactly. This is because of Apollo server. If you are in a development environment, this is gonna work. So you're gonna see these. But if you're in a production environment, you're not going to be seeing that. This is just for the development process. We will understand how to close all these things and how to not show these to the clients, because of course this is a security issue. Actually, it's not that security issues, because you have all the documentation of the software here. If you take a look, you have the docs in right here in the corner. You can get the docs. So if you open this, look, that's really, really amazing. All my queries are here, and you have the details of the things. So you just click there and it's going to say the ID and scalar type represents a unique identifier, often used to refetch an object or whatever. So this is one of the things I like to work with Apollo. So I just do a little bit of coding. See, I have here like 6 lines of code, and then you have all the documentation that you need to work with. It's right there. It's right there in front of you. So let's try it. Let's see what happens. So how do I do that? How do I do the queries? How do I work with that? Well, if it's a query, it starts with query. Simple, easy. We like easy things. It's 2021. If we're developing software that the things are difficult, something's really wrong with that. So let's keep everything really easy. So we are working with objects around. So most of the time you just open the brackets and let's see what happens here. I just pressed Control and space. When you do the Control space thing, there you go. It's gonna list everything for you, everything that you can fetch from the backend. But there is something here. How we do that? How does Apollo do that? Well, when you are working with GraphQL, there is just one request to the backend, and it's a post request. So GraphQL just works with post requests. When we are working with REST, you have the post, get, put, patch. You have a lot of different ways to do that. But GraphQL is just going to get post. But this is not actually true. I'm just lying to you. I believe you are believing in me. But there is one call that the front end does to the back end, and it's an options call. When the front end asks an options to Apollo, Apollo gives back all the data modeling to the front end. So what I'm saying to you, that all this information came from the backend, and I didn't need to do anything. All the type system, because we don't have type system in the JavaScript, but all the type system it's here, and I can prove that to you. For example, ID. All right, I've said the ID. It's let me just see here. ID is ID. Let's just put the ID as an integer, just in order to work with that. Of course, if you do some changes, you need to go down, go up again. I know that there's people in the chat just saying, "Hey, please use Nodejs and all that." I'm going to do that. Don't worry. I'm just showing this right now. So if I do some changes, I need to go down, go up again. Right, and then let's refresh it. There we go. So the ID, I said that's going to be an integer, right? And here I'm in the front end. I'm not in the back end. So let's do something like that. Let's call the ID Brenner, right? And what I want back all the information that it gives me: ID, title, and year. As you can see, I did nothing yet. I didn't fetch anything. I just type it ID Breno, and there is a red mark here. Can you see that there's a red mark here? It's just saying, hey, something is wrong here. Because if you take a look at the documentation about this query is gonna say you, hey, the ID is gonna be an integer. So the front end already knows all the type systems from the backend, and the front end didn't need to do anything. The type system is just there. You just call an option to the backend, and the information is there. It's just already saying. So if you try to fetch for that, you're gonna receive an error. Don't do that. Before you do anything, there's already an error. But we are this kind of person. You see that there is a problem. What do? We go to the problem. Yeah. We do that. You say, I think that we are scientists. So if people say this is gonna be wrong, you're gonna say yes, let's try it, and it's gonna be wrong, and then you're gonna say, is this gonna be wrong at midnight? Let's try it. So we just try. Of course, we received integer cannot be represented by a non-integer Brenner. So let's try now an integer. So everything is working. If I fetch, there we go. I'm receiving my array of books. And then I've got all the books that I have in the backend. And it's that easy. Again, if it is difficult, it is wrong. Software development into 2021 should not be difficult. It needs to be easy, very easy. Otherwise, it's, in my point of view, I don't know the point of view of Bruno, but in my point of view, if it's difficult, it's really wrong. That's yeah. So now let's just go back to an ID. This ID type, it's gonna be a string. In the end of the day, it's gonna be a string. So you can pass a string, and this is the reason behind of that. It's because most of the people nowadays are using UUIDs or guides. You can call it any way you want. It's the UUID. Yeah, it's a unique universal identifier, or the guide global universal identifier. It's the same thing, just different names. Absolutely the same thing. Again, I want to get this ID because I want to fetch my books now by ID. How do I do that? Okay, when you create your resolvers, every function Apollo will inject into that function 4 different variables. The first one, we call it the parent. For the book, we don't have parent already because the book, we call it a root. Yeah, and you will understand this in a very short moment. But let's just ignore the parent right now. The second thing you're going to receive in a function, it's gonna be the params of the request. So params. Okay, and then you have other 2. We are not going to talk about it yet. So I just want to understand what's the params. So let's just do a console log here and understand what's the params. And then of course, let's return the books that we have on the top of the file. Okay, let's just figure out what's that. Again, I'm just going to make it, well, let's fix this now. It's not good. Let's do that. Yarn add Nodejs and development. Yeah. What's the difference between adding something, just adding, and adding something to the development? Well, if you go to production, you don't need Nodejs. So if you just do yarn install with production set, the Nodejs will not be installed because we don't need it into the Node modules. So less thing to send to the front end, it's going to be faster. This is the reason we do the yarn add development. So every time something that just work for the development, we are going to do that. That is really nice. So the next thing we're going to do, we are going to go here and create something in the package.json called scripts. Okay, and the scripts, let's create a dev script, and the dev script's gonna call Nodejs, right? And then it's gonna pass it the index.js. What I'm gonna do now, I'm not going to do the node index. I'm not going to use the Node.js to do that for me. I'm going to use the Nodejs. And if we create scripts in the inside the package.json, you just do the yarn and the name of the script that you want to run. So that's it. It's listening. Why do we do that when we are working with software development? We do that because every time I do any changes in my software, I want it to automatically reload for me. It's called hot reload. All right. So this is what we are doing now. There is a hot reload, and every time I save the file, it's automatically reload for me. Perfect. Let's call it again. So in the front end, I'm going to call it. Of course, the response is the same. But now I have here an object. Look, it's ID1. So the params, it's what's inside of the book. Again, I told you, when you request things in the GraphQL, it's going to be in the middle of the parentheses. So I can do that, and I can create any I want to. So I want to fetch book by title. So title is going to be string, right? So I save it, and now, of course, here I need to reload. And there you go. Now I have a title. Really, really, really simple, and I can just use a title here. All right. If I call the backend, now in the params I have 2 different things, ID and title. So I have both of them, and I can work with. Very easy. For example, if I want to filter the books by title, how do I do that? I'm just going to do a filter here, and I'm going to, well, I have an arrow function, of course, and this is gonna filter the books. So every cycle you're gonna receive a book. So let's just do the book dot its ID, isn't it? Should be equal to the params dot ID. That's it. I believe that I need to return an array here. Some problem is gonna happen, but no problem. Yeah, it's an empty one because the ID is gonna be book one. So let's try this one. Book one. There you go. Book one. So when we try to fetch it, easy. Really, 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 really easy. I'm doing nothing here. I just wanted to look at you on the other side and ask, do you have any question about this? But I think that you don't. I don't know how are you, Bruno? Yeah, I believe that. I feel the same. I feel the same. Man, when I'm working with GraphQL, I really feel the same. It's man, it's easy, it's amazing, and I want to work with that every day because you do small things and great things happens. Of course, this is not production ready, okay? Because I'm just showing you the potential of all these. We need to do a lot of things. We're gonna do that, guys. Don't worry. We're gonna do that, people. So now let's try to make it a little bit more fun. So let's get, for example, the books should have authors. Okay, author. I like to use singular for the data description and plural for the queries. So because when I'm describing a type, I just want to describe one type. So it's just going to describe one book, how one book is. So I use singular. So this is the reason I'm using author for this. So author, of course, is going to have an ID. That's an ID. Author has a name. That's going to be a string. And an age, that's gonna be an integer, right? And now I'm gonna say that the book has an author, right? And what is the type of author? The type of author, it's the type that we create right now. So it's gonna be author. That's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. Now I'm connected both book and author. But let's just create some of these informations here. So let's just create const authors, and let's create an array. This is going to be the first author, of course, and then it has ID, name, age. So ID, name, and an age. It's going to be let's get my one. So the ID is gonna be Breno, I don't know, 001, and the name is gonna be, of course, Breno, and the age 38. So let's get to Bruno now. this is really interesting. Bruno and Breno, but okay, Bruno, 00. Let's get 001 because we have Bruno. Name. What's your share name? Kurt. Nice. Bruno Kurt. And the age. What's your age? 24. That's it. And I'm gonna say that the author of the book 2, it's gonna be the Bruno 001. I'm just going to pass the ID, and the author of the book 1, it's gonna be author, and the ID, it's gonna be Bruno 001. There we go. Right, so everything is connected, everything is created. Is it gonna work? No. It's not going to work. If we do the things here, say I need to get books and do that, it's going to give me back the books because we need to work with the resolvers. All right, and now we have a new things here. It's author type. Look, I have the author, and the author has ID, and author has a name, and author has an age. So, but if I ask for that information, it's going to say that everything is new, and it's not new. We need to connect the things. So I have the first data, and I need to connect the first data with the second one. When we are talking about GraphQL, the concept, the name of this is chaining. Chain, I would translate that. My mind was like chain, it's corrente, but chain is chain. But the idea of chain, it's because you are connecting the first information with the second one. If you want to, if you need to. So how do we do the chaining process in the GraphQL? We do that in the resolvers. So I need to create something here to describe how do I fetch every single field of the book. So I have the book type, didn't I? So I have query. Look at here again. So I have type query, isn't it? What I did, query. So the first name of the object is query. If I have type book, of course, and I want to do something with book, I just have the book here, and it's gonna be a function. And this function will, well, it's not gonna be a function, I'm sorry. It's gonna be an object. And inside this object, I have every type that I've defined in books. So for example, I have ID, title, year, and author. The one I want to work with, it's author. Okay, so I'm just going to put it here, author. And now it's a function. As you can see, it's the same idea of the query. So if I have type query, inside of query I have books, and I have an object with query, and inside of queries I have books, I have the same thing for books. If I have books, if I have books, and inside of books I have a type that's author, I just can do the same thing, books and author. But now we are going to work with the parent idea. So I have the parent and the params. Okay, and let's see what is that. Console log, and let's just do an object parent and params. Okay, and I'm just going to return new. Okay, just do that. Okay, and then let's just do that and see what happens when I call the backend. Look, when I call the backend it's gonna say, hey, I have a request. This is the params. Oh, I'm sorry, the params is here. This is the because I have console log here. Okay, let's just remove that. But I will receive the parent. So the parent, it's the chaining process. So what's the parent for the author? It's a book. So I have the author, the parent of the author, it's the book. So when I'm processing the author, I will pass to this author the book that's been fetched. Let's just remove these and not ask for any to give me all the information. Let's just go back here. It's gonna filter book ID. Yeah. Exactly. If you ask for it, if you don't ask for it, it's not going to process the book. And this is the magic behind the GraphQL. And this is the reason when they say, as much as you want, as much as you need to wait for the answer. If you don't want many things, it's going to be easy. It's going to be fast. You're going to receive that. If you need a lot of information, you're going to need to wait for that. When you have REST, you don't have the options. You just get something, and you always going to receive everything. It can be processable part by part, and you can't like make it faster if you want to, or slower if you want to. You need to receive everything, and GraphQL it's gonna give you an option to that. So let's just going to run this query. I'm receiving everything, so I'm going to receive every parent. So inside the parent, it's just like I'm fetching for every book I have and passing the book object to the author, and now the author can do something with that. Okay, so I have all the authors. Okay, authors, and I'm going to filter the authors as I did with the book, and every authors has an author. Let's just do an arrow function here, and then I have author, and now what do I need to get? If the author dot ID, okay, it's equal to the parent, okay, that's the one I have there, dot ID, okay. Something is wrong here. I don't need this. Yeah. So I'm going to filter now. I'm going to look through all the authors I have and see if there is a match between the IDs. If there's a match between the IDs, I'm going to give it back this author. So let's do that. And yeah. Mm-hmm. The author is just one author. That's the reason. Yeah. No. What I'm doing wrong? Let me get there. Let's read it again. So author is going to return just one author. And now I have the parent ID. It's going to be book one. The parent ID is going to be book one. Of course, this is the mistake. It's not the parent ID. It's the parent author. This is the mistake. I'm comparing I'm comparing the ID of the author with the ID of the book. It's not going to match. It's the parent author. So let's do that. It's null again. And let's try to get the first. I don't think that we need to get the first. Yeah, we need to get the first one. You are right. So there we go. Now I have the book 2 has the author Bruno, and Bruno it's the author of the book 2. Let's check what I've said earlier. So we have the console log here. Let's just change it to a different console log. So let's console log. I've got here. Okay. Oh, I've got here. So what I'm saying is, if this function it's executed anytime, this console log will run. Okay. So if I do that and I receive all the information, I have two I've got here. Why do I have two? Because I have two books. So it runs the first book and then get the author of that, the second book and then get the author of that. Let's say that I don't want the author. I don't want the author. I just want the book, title and year. I just run that and see what happens. Nothing happens. You just seen the two last one. Let's do it again. Just do that. Let's run it again. It run. Nothing here. So it's not running. That function is not running. So you've been selective from what you want. So if you want more data, you need to understand that you need more data. So if you need more data, it's going to ask for more. It's asking for more. So you need to pay for that. The payload will be bigger. And now you just seen some arrays and things like that. But think of that. Think of the database. You do a query, and every time you need to get the author, you do other queries. So most of the people are gonna say, what's the difference? What's faster? You do a join or multiple queries? What do you think it's faster, Bruno? Bruno, are you there? I believe it. Yeah. What's faster? I don't know if people in the chat knows the answer, but what's faster? Join or multiple queries? The answer is join. Join is always faster than multiple queries. But there's a really big but here. Yeah, really big but here. There's a but here. So if I don't execute the queries, if I do a query in just one table, it's going to be faster. So every time you ask for everything, the comparison asking for everything between join and multiple queries, join will be faster. But if you don't ask the queries, if you don't do the second queries, the first one will be faster. Because you don't need to do the join. The join will never exist. So this is the reason behind the fast multiple queries when we were working with chaining. Again, here I'm just doing the filter, but it's gonna be faster anyway. I don't get to the second information. And you say, hey, but I have available. I have all this information available here. Why shouldn't I ask for this? Imagine that you are in the front end. Now, I'm working with the front end, and I want you to show information from books, for example. Imagine, of course, for books, I would like to show the author of the book just in the first thing. But imagine that in the front end you just have a card, a card for a book. So I just want you to show in this card the title and the year of the book. If you are in a REST requisition, you request to the backend, and the backend is going to give you everything back. Other way, you need to have two different routes to the backend. You need the first route. The first route is going to give you just the book, and the second route it's going to give you the book with authors. Or you have parameters to do that, and you're going to receive all the information. But here in GraphQL, the front end can choose what it wants to. So the front end will be able to improve to make the software faster, to help the backend with the questions that you have, with the gets that you have, with the queries that you have, to make it faster. So if I don't need that information, let's do that. If I need that information, it's going to require more time to do that. If I don't need that information, I just don't need to ask for the backend, and it's not going to require it. So it's going to be faster. This is the reason behind the multiple queries faster than join, the chaining idea of the GraphQL. Did you get that, Bruno? Yeah. Most of the time when we have a table in the front, we don't use tables anymore. Yeah, I know, but some people use tables, some people use cards. Yeah, you can fight for whatever you want. But think about the table. We have a table in the front end, and I want to show all the books. If I show a lot of information, the responsiveness is gonna be a hell. So what people choose to do, they choose to create tables with fewer information. So for example, I'm just going to have the books with the title of the book. When I click on the book title, then I will get all the information. So if I'm showing all the books, I just show the ID and the title. If I show one book, I just show the complete information. And then you just can look at me and say, hey, but when I click on that, it's going to ask the backend all the information. So I need all the information. Yes, you do. But now you need all the information for just one book. You don't need all the information for all the books. And the backend and people from the database, I have friends that the database, and I believe one of them is in the chat right now. They're going to love you. Because, man, you can just ask for one information. When you need everything, it's just one information. When you need everything, it's really small information. When you need one information, you need everything. So it's going to be one loop through all these things. Let's check that. Let's check that again. So if I'm fetching for a book, I'm just going to pass the ID of the book. So let's just get the book one that I have here. So there's the book one. So I just removed the filter thing here, and let's do that. Why? Because it's book. So it's gonna be book ID. And then this is gonna be the params.id, right? So let's see what happens here when I ask that. Just one book, yeah? I didn't pass the author. So let's get the author. I have the author here, ID, and then we have the name, and we have the age. Let's run for this. As you can see, it's just one I've got here. The function was executed just one time. So even when you want a lot of information, it's a lot of information for just one book. You can do some magic tricks in the database, and we will learn about that, doing hashing and all those things. So I need a lot of information. Few information, I want for a lot of one. I just want one information. So if I want just one information, you can get everything that you want. It's gonna be really fast. So sometimes GraphQL is faster. It's not because GraphQL is faster. It's a wonderful technology. Again, it's not the language, it's the engineering. I'm going to say that a lot in this live. It's not the language, the engineering. You can get JavaScript, you can get Python, you can get Java, you can get Scala, you can get Go, you can get whatever you want. If you mess up with the engineering, your software is going to be messed up. So don't mess up with the engineering, and it's going to be fast as hell. So use the standards. Any questions, Bruno? Yeah, perfect. So, well, if people in the chat has any questions, you can do the questions. You can go into the Discord server. There is a Discord server in the I don't know the link of that, but I can share with you. Let's just copy that. Let's just paste this into the chat. There we go. It's in the chat. Yeah, you can join the Discord and you can ask the questions if you want to. No problem at all with that. Just say that you want to do a question because you will be muted in the Discord channel, but you can do that. You can go live and talk to us. Don't be shy or be. It's your shoes. So the concept of chaining is that how's that? Somebody just entered the Discord and ran away. No problem. Any questions about the chaining? How do you feel that? How do you feel about the chaining? Is it difficult to understand the idea of chaining? Yeah. 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 But let's make a little bit complicated. Let's see what we can do that's complicated. It's difficult to complicate this kind of thing, but let's try to do that. Now I have an author, and I wanted to filter the authors. So I have this query, okay, and let's say that I want the authors. I just want to list the authors if the authors has an age that's less than 30 years, right? So how do you do that with GraphQL? Because I'm passing this information for the books, and I'm not passing any kind of information for the author, but I want to filter the author too. How do I do that? How is this gonna be possible here? Do you have any clue? Do you have any clue, Bruno? Let's see what happens with that. It's a good clue. So we have the parents here in the books, right? So let's just console log the params and see what happens. So again, I have the book's params and the author's params. So let's just see what's inside the. Let's see what's inside the. Well, it's empty, and I'm actually passing an ID, and the params is empty. So well, it's not injecting the params. So what do I do now? That's really good clue. It's not defining the types. So how do I define that? It's very confusing, isn't it? Let's just yeah. I know. Let's just try something. Yeah. I'm just going to take a look at that, and let's just try something. Let's just, for example, here, let's just try to do that. Age 30, and see what happens now, right? So let's run again, and of course, because I need to define it here. So if I'm saying that I have an author with an age here, and then I need to define it in the books, right? Because if I'm doing query, just think about that. If I'm doing query, and then I have query books and params, query books and params, so I can have the same thing here. So if I have a book, an author, and I want to pass some filters to that, I can do that here. So ID, it's gonna, oh, it's not ID, no? It's age. Age, it's gonna be an integer, right? So I'm gonna save it. As you can see, no errors. So, and it's already working. But let's see what the documentation says. So take a look at that. So we have author, okay? And then inside the author, I have this age as an argument. And now I can use that to filter whatever I want here. And then when I do that, you're gonna see that you're gonna receive the age here. Really simple, isn't it? Of course, the first time you look at that, you're gonna be a little bit confused and say, where do I put these things? But what's behind of? Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, but why can you do that? Have you ever thought about that? Why can you do that? And the answer is you can do that in GraphQL because every time you define a type, this type is processable. Let's just think about this. So you have books. Well, if I'm working with books, can I work with for example, the title of the book? Can I just change the title of the book? Let's just do that, title. And let's just create a function here. This seems a little bit confusing because I'm saying that the title, it's a string. Let me see if anybody's here. Victor Hugo. Perfect. Very good thing to do. So, but it's confusing because people just look at the title and see that the title is defined as a string. So what I'm saying when I'm modeling my data, it's that the title is a string. But what I'm actually saying is, remember these 2 points that I have here, it's the answer. So let's look again at the query. The query is just saying to me, I have books, I will pass this information, and I will receive this information. So when I'm doing that, I'm not saying that title, it's a string. I'm saying that title returns a string. And this is really different. This is, do you get it, Bruno? Do you see? I'm not saying this definition of GraphQL, it's not saying the title, it's a string. What it's really saying that the title should, in the end of the things, renders and should answer, should respond a string. That's the beautiful thing about this GraphQL, because now what I do is I'm going to receive the parent. Okay, so again, the parent, it's the book itself. So if the parent is the book itself, I can just return the parent dot the title, right? So I have the parent, it's the book itself, and then I can return the title. So if the title is a string, how do we know that the title is a string? It's here. The title, all the titles I have in my thing is a string, and I need to answer. So the response should be a string. So how do I do the uppercase? It's uppercase, isn't it? I don't remember by head. You're going to Google it, don't you? Yeah, this is the real software development. What do you do? What do you know? You just Google it. 15 years working. I just forget how do I uppercase. So how do I do uppercase? Just Google it. Well, it's useless to remember everything. You just need to remember that it's possible to do that. It's true uppercase or something like that, isn't it? Hey. Yeah. You. Yeah. Yeah, nice. This one? Just like that? Are you sure? Yeah, I did that. Are you sure? Have you Googled that? Have you? Yeah. You did. Don't worry. Let's just do that and see what happens. There we go. Book title now. It's all uppercases. See? Let's just remove that, and if I'm going to remove that, I need to remove the other one as well. So let's just a little bit of organization, and let's do that. And what? It's because I'm passing the ID. I just need to do that. If let's just do this params.id. It's going to return that. Elsewhere it's going to return the books. There, fix it. There we go. Books. So the books now, it's all in uppercase. Again, when we are talking about GraphQL, this does not means that the title, it's the type string. It's just say that the title should respond, the response of the title should be a string. That's the reason I can do whatever I want with title. And here it is. If I can do whatever I want with the book title, can I do whatever I want with the author title? Of course you can do. What do? You just create the author here, author, yeah, and you do exactly the same thing. What do you want to change? For example, I want to change the name. Okay, so you do the name thing, and it's gonna be a function that gets the parent. When we're talking about books, parent, it's books itself. When we are talking about author, the parent, it's the author itself. So the author has a name. So let's do exactly the same. Return parent dot name dot to uppercase, and just use that and see what happens. Yeah, and it's not just that you were able to manipulate the data. You can pass everything that you want. It's gonna be really mind-blowing, but you can do something like that. You can pass a parameter, you can pass the params to the title. That in other language, you just have the title, which is a string. What hell are you doing? You're passing the title. But for example, let's do that with book. Okay, I'm gonna pass something here that's not gonna be mandatory. It's called the upper. Okay, and this is gonna be a boolean. All right. The thing is, if I pass the upper, I want the title in uppercase. If I don't, I want the title the way it is. See? So let's do that. So we're gonna have the book, we're gonna have the title, so I have the param, and I have the upper. Actually not, I have params. Let's just improve the JavaScript a little bit, so I can just structure the object params. So I'm just get here the upper. Okay, there you go. So now I get, oh, sorry. So now I get the upper. So what I'm gonna do is return upper. So if upper that, if not, I'm just going to get back the parent.title. And there you go. So let's just take a look and see what happens. So here now I have the upper. So let's pass it false. So see, the title of the book, it's not upper. So let's pass it true and see what happens. There you go. It's upper. See, most of the people think that I'm working with a single structure, like a simple structure that I have before. I'm just saying title, it's a string. So you're defining here. So you're defining here that the title is a string. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I have a title and the response of the title will be a string. And I can do whatever I want with the string. Wow, it's gonna be magically do things for me. For example, uppercase. I just should process that from the backend. I don't think that it's a good example, but it's an example. Did you get it, Bruno? As we're talking in, I just get it now that we are talking English, so I'm calling you Bruno instead of Bruno. And I'm calling myself Breno instead of Breno. And my name is Breno, your name is Bruno, and I'm saying Breno and Bruno. Yeah, part of the, yeah, and you know that if we were in French, they would say Bruno and Breno. So if this was a French life, I would be Breno and you would be Bruno. I just need to focus calling myself Breno and call yourself Bruno. I'm sorry about that. It's better, yeah, because it's the definition of the person. Yeah, you don't call a John, American John, or an English John, João in Brazil. You know, you just call it John. Well, really good. We have around 20 more minutes, and everything seems to be fun and all of that. But don't you feel that this is not a real software development? And we are talking about the God stack. We are talking about, well, again, the God stack. It's not the stack. The God stack, it's the person. It's you in the other side. What we want to do here is to make you in the other side a God stack. You can use any language you want. The language doesn't matter. What matters is engineering. So what I feel here is just one of that. This is just one of that YouTube videos that people do things just like in some minutes and everything's done, and they say, yeah, now I'm the real world. What would I do with that? Okay, so we need to improve that. So it's very messy here. So I have everything in the same file. This is ugly as fuck. So exactly, yeah. But it's the tip of the iceberg. But it's the iceberg. The iceberg is still here. I can feel the coldness of the yeah. So what we don't have here, I believe that it's a proper organization of these things. Everything's here, but everything is in the same file. In the end of the day, no matter what language you're doing, it's gonna be just one file because it's gonna be processed from the top to the bottom. And this is actually production. But for software developers, this is not what we want. For Godstack, that's not what we want. So let's just do the first step, okay? One of the things I like to do is to create layers. I've learned these layers. I've learned these layers from the DDD, domain drive design. Okay, I'm not going to use domain drive design in a full way because it's not going to match with GraphQL. You need the isolation of the domains. There's a lot of things that it's inside the domain drive design I don't want to use because again, if it's difficult, it's wrong. And most of the time, if you work with all the DDD things, the book has like 1,000 pages. You should read the book. Hey, read the manual, read the book. Just get there, get the DDD domain drive design book and read that. It's really important. But for us, let's just get it domain driven design, and let's just get the images and see if we have a good image from the book here. Let's call it layers. Let's see somebody. Yeah, this one I like. Yeah, this is in the book. This is an image that's in the book, the domain drive design, and as you can see, you have different layers here. Okay, so you have the user interface. That's the layer of the user. In this case, it's going to be the layer of the SPA. We are not going to think about. Again, I'm just minimizing everything and making everything easier to understand. It's more than that. You should read the book. There is more than anything I could tell you. Please read the book. But minimizing the things and think about just trying to make it easier. User interface is going to be the SPA. Just think like that. User interface is going to be the SPA. Application. Application, it's the business logic of my API. So what's about the business logic? What we are talking about when we talk about the business logic? Around 70-80% of the time, it's authorization, data validation, and call for the infrastructure. That you should have in your application layer. What's different between authorization and authentication? Yeah, authentication, when you call the backend to say if somebody it's subscribed into the application. So most of the time you pass username and password. There's different ways to do that, but the most regular one, it's you just pass the username and the password. When you pass the username and the password, it gives you back the information if you are a valid user or not. This is authentication process. But you have the authorization process. What's the authorization process? Well, if I am a person that's valid in the system, what can I do in the system? So, for example, can everyone create user in the system? Most of the time, yes. So it's going to be valid for everyone. But can everyone edit user? That's not really true, because I don't want, for example, myself to edit information from Bruno. I don't want Bruno to edit information from myself. So I need the authorization to say, are you trying to update your information? So you can do that. Are you trying to update information from other person? You can't do that. This is authorization, different from authentication. So in the application process, you do the authorization thing, and you do the data validation. For example, you are sending information to the backend, and the title should be a string. You should validate that. Aha, but not with GraphQL. Why don't you need to validate the types in the GraphQL? Because you already said that. You just did that in the types. You just said the title, it's a string, so it needs to respond a string, and you need to fetch for things. For example, ID, it's an ID type, and the title, it's a title, it's a string. So this is already defined. But for example, for names, I want the name be between 2 chars and 200 chars. I don't want more than 200 and less than. The GraphQL, it's not doing that. You need to do it by yourself. So this is gonna be the second thing you do in the application layer. So it's authorization and data validation, and then you call for infrastructure. What's the call for infrastructure? You're gonna call it to save something in the database, to update something in the database, to call another API to do something, to put something in a bus logic for a microservicing, whatever you want, to save files. And this is gonna be just the call. This is not going to be executed, because this is going to be executed into the infrastructure. The infrastructure is going to be the one responsible to fetch information from the database, to save files, to, well, whatever you want, it's going to be there. And the domain, what's the domain? The domain is going to be the explanation of the data modeling you have inside your application. So let's just take a look at that. And now let's just go back here and let's think about this. What is that? What do you think is that, Bruno? This seems to be, yeah. This seems to be the database, isn't it? So here it is. All my information is here. So yeah. So this is the infrastructure part. So what is that? What's happening here? Yeah, I just forget that you have the delay, because you're looking. Yeah, you're looking at the well, I should, yeah, I should actually share my screen with you in the Discord, isn't it? It's gonna be really bad. I'm sorry about that. I was just here like, there we go. You have my screen now. Yeah. Yeah, better. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. I was just. Exactly. Perfect. Perfect. That's our domain. It's our domain because it's describing the data. It's not executing anything, not fetching anything, not doing authorizations, authentications, and whatever. It's not doing that. So it's just our domain, just description of the data. So this is gonna be our domain. So the type is gonna be our domain, and the resolvers. What does the resolvers does? Exactly. This is the business logic, isn't it? For one example of business logics, I want the uppercase. If I pass upper, I want uppercase. So it's rendering the business logic. So I lied. So it's authorization, data validation, the business logic, the processing and all, and then call for the infrastructure. We don't have infrastructure here because we're going to do that. We are not working with the database. So when we return, we already returned the data. It's just like we have direct access to the. It's like we have directly access to the authors, and the authors is the database. So I'm just entering the database here. So we should have a function that gets these for us in the database and all. We're gonna do that. Don't worry. We're gonna get there. This is just a simple example. So let's try to do that. Let's create a file here called domain. All right, there you go. Let's go domain.js. Okay, and what we can do, we're gonna get this guy. Yeah, get this, and there you go. And then we're going to do the export the type defs. Type defs. There we go. So I'm just isolating the things. So now I have the type defs here and it's exported there. Let's just import it. Import from this thing. The what? Of course, I've created the domain outside the API. There we go. Yeah. So there you go, domain. But there is a but. There's always a but. I like that. I'm Brazilian. I like that there is always buts in the things. But when you are working in the backend and when you are working with Nodejs, we respect the standards. So if you are importing something from a file, you should describe all the file. So this is not going to work. This is not going to work. But I do that in the front end. Why do I do that in the front end and it accepts that to do that for me? It does not. The front end does not accept that. What happens is the Babel, it's going to do that for you. It's going to remove the .js or whatever and just going to get the file for you and it's going to do magically. So, but in the backend, we are not using Babel or anything. We are using the pure JavaScript. If you use the pure JavaScript, you need to say that you're importing it from the specific file. So when I do that, I receive the type defs. So I don't have the type defs anymore. Let's just check if it works. It's still working. Let's just get some data. The data is here, so it is still working. Nice. If I have that, okay. Now, new file. I have the application.js. Let's just get it from the resolvers. So the resolvers are my application. So let's put it here and of course export the resolvers. Okay, I'm exporting the resolvers and now I'm just going to import. Yeah. I'm just seeing if you're taking a look, if you're paying attention for that. Man, congratulations, you're really paying attention to that. This is the second time I tested you and you passed that. Amazing, amazing. Okay, no, I'm not. I'm just forgetting about things. So this is a dependency from the resolvers. So I'm going to do that here as well. Again, we should have an infrastructure, but we don't have the database yet. It's just an array in a const. So I'm just going to put it here. Okay. Okay, and then let's just remove that and save it. See if everything is working. Everything is still working. And now it's a little bit better, isn't it? So I just started to think that it's more professional. Let's just put some git ignore here. Git ignore. And of course, Node modules. I have a friend that, well, he's junior. Of course, he's junior, and he applied to a job position, and he just sent the Node modules into the the thing. Don't do that. Don't do that. Why don't you do that? You don't do that because you can do the yarn install or npm install to do the thing for you. It's not necessary to put all the Node modules. And again, look at that. It's really big. It's really big. Yeah, exactly. You just want to preserve everything. So, well, you don't need to do that. So just put a just put. Yeah, I know that friend. Everybody knows. Yeah, everybody knows that friend. Everybody has that friend because I didn't do that with Node.js because when I've learned Node.js, I was like older and I had experience with other language. But I did that with PHP. So I've committed the vendor folder into the PHP. So you don't need to be ashamed of that. It's the mistakes you have. It's going to make you a better software developer. It's what they say. If you have a water with a shining armor, this water never saw war. And it's true. It's your mistakes, it's the scars you have. If it's your armor with all the things inside of that and the blood in the thing that makes you a good software developer. If you don't make mistakes, you're not a good software developer. If you are always doing everything right, you're not a good software developer. You need to do the mistakes. It's really important to do the mistakes and understand why you did that. If I'm doing all of that, for example, domain drive design, I didn't figure out that we have layers and we need to do with that until I started to develop software and have problems with that. Until a friend of mine, I don't know if he's in the chat, and a friend of mine just looked at me and said, "Hey, take a look at this book. Read this book. It's a good one, a good book, best book that you can get." It's not the best book you can get, but it's a good book. But it's Torugo. I don't know if Torugo is there, but he just showed me the book. Said, "Hey, read that first and improve your knowledge." I just did that, and I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, and I will make a lot of mistakes here too. And it's gonna be live. It's gonna be for everyone all around the world to see it. So don't be ashamed of your mistakes. Just know that it's a mistake and correct it from now on. So don't do that again. So if you know that friend, I really want to work with your friend because that friend made a mistake and he's not going to do that again. So when I'm working with him, I will be sure that I'm working with a person that did a mistake and knows about that mistake. So it's not going to repeat again. So if I have a friend, I choose the friends that made mistakes. They will not do that again. People that don't do mistakes, they will do when they are working with me. So I prefer people that does mistakes. That's what I think. I don't know. What do you think, Bruno? Exactly. This exactly. Yeah. There's a friend in the chat. She's QA, and she's the one responsible to find the mistakes in software development. You know, she's the one pointing the fingers and say, "Hey, look at this, a mistake." You know. Yeah. But be friends with the QA. one of the things that happened in my career is when I started to respecting the QA team, my software development started to improve because they are going to show you the mistakes you didn't figure out that you should be there. You know, things that it's a problem, it's a mistake, and you didn't figure out. The QA will help you to not put that into production. So sometimes I worked with teams that they are always angry about the QA. You know, because they say, "Oh, I'm just trying to deliver the feature or whatever. I'm trying to deliver it. The QA is always blocking me." It's not the QA that's blocking you. You're doing a bug. You're doing a problem. The QA is just exposing it. But this is, I believe that this is the problems with the developers and the QA, because it's the QA responsibility to expose the bugs, and the developer thinks that he's the one this is the one that creating the bugs. You're not creating bugs, you're creating software, and every software has bugs, and the QA is there to save you. The QA is there to save the application to go into production with bugs. The QA is doing that before anything really bad can happen. So yeah, and sometimes you need to do that again and again and again because the QA found a bug, and you feel that you are not progressing. But if you have a good manager, a good project owner, if this kind of person is good and it's there, you as a software developer will not have fear of doing a task again because a QA found a bug. You're going to do that gladly, and you're going to respect the QA, and the project manager will respect you in your job, and we understand that it's a creative job. Software development, it's a creative job. So it's not something that you just build like a car, that you just get the things and put it together and there it is. It's not like that. Sometimes it's really creative, and there is a lot of trick things that you need to think again, and the QA is there to help you. The QA is there to help you not to deliver buggy things. So do again, and do again smiling, because there was somebody there to help you with that. And this is the QA team. I have all my respect for the QAs, and once in the moment in the past I was that kind of developer that was fuck, I don't want to do that again, and I feel smaller because I was not able to progress in my task. But when I saw the software in production, and the software goes live, and the client is happy doing that, the client is getting money, and there is no bugs, or the bugs are really minimal, and it does not go back into production because of a really big bug. This is the payment. The support is gonna be happier for you and all that. So respect the QA team. Sometimes you feel as a software developer that things is not going, but again, respect it, because it's really important, and every company should, if they can, because you need DevOps, you need designers, you need backends, you need frontends, you need QA, you need project owner, project manager, all that costs money. But if you have the money enough, you need to have a good backend, but you need to have a good QA, you need to have a good DevOps, you need to have a good database manager and all of that. This is how your software is going to be good in the end. I'm just going to help you through the process with what I can. But there are people specific to do these tasks. They are going to do it way better than I do. And we should respect all of them. That's it. So just in the end, I just wanted to create another file here, which is called infrastructure Infrastructure. What a name, isn't it? Infrastructure, I believe that's right. And again, it's outside the API. This time I've made this mistake in the past, so now I know. I just want to get these. It's not, bah. So let's export authors and export books. Okay, let's save it. And here I'm going to import from what is going on here? Import something from infrastructure.js, and then I can get authors and I can get books, and let's see if it happens. There you go. It's working. Perfect. Beautiful. All the layers are defined here. So now I have just my server here with the things that it's server related. Okay, on my server. I can do better, actually. Let's create another file, call it schema.js. Again, let's just put that again. And let's just get these, right? Let's get these and put into the schema. Okay, this is still working. And now I'm just going to export the schema. There we go. So export the schema, and then into the thing here, just import from the schema.js, and that's going to do that. This is not going to be here. This is going to be into the the schema. There we go. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to save that and hope for the better. There we go. Now it's a little bit more, just a little bit more professional. I have one file with just 20 lines. This is really good because it's really easy to see everything. So if I don't have the terminal here, see everything, it's my screen. All this thing. So okay, Apollo server, blah blah blah, and then I will import the schema. So all the schema are here. So I'm just making executor schemas that needs the type defs and his overs. Of course, the type defs is the definition of my GraphQL data. So here it is, the definition of my GraphQL data, and I have the application. The application, it's all my logic. It's the logic of my system. So everything is here, and I have the data into the infrastructure. The data is here. A little bit more professional. Not that professional, because we're working with API. We're gonna do that, but this is for the next live. The lives, it's always Tuesdays and Thursdays from in the Lisbon time, from 10 to midnight, and in the Brazil, I believe that's from 6 to 8. Is it right, Bruno? From 6 to 8, isn't it? In Brazil. Yeah, perfect. And if you are in a different region, just do the math. Well, actually, in the Twitch, you can see there is a panel showing all the dates and things like that. It's auto created there. So Tuesdays and Thursdays from Lisbon time, 10 to midnight. The thing is there. People, thank you very much. Thank you very much that you are in the other side, that you want to understand all these technologies and everything. If you want to hit me, we have a Discord channel. You can just go there, do all your questions. I'm willing to do the best as I can to help everyone. I believe that Bruno will be there to help you guys as well. Hate on us. Yeah. the company that we work as well. We work for Platinums in Brazil, and well. Let's raid someone. Let's see if a friend of mine is, yes, he's online. I'm just going to send you for a friend of mine. He's a really funny guy, and he's developing software online. He's doing what I'm doing, so please go there and check that guy, because he's a really good one. It's Melky. It's a friend of mine. He's a crazy Russian guy. See you guys in the next live. Thank you very much for everything.